Okay, so today we're doing a market update with Sean Woolley, Managing Director of Cloud9 Spain and author of From the Ground Up. So, for those of you who don't know, Sean's main area and his business's main area of operation is the Costa del Sol, but he also does real estate business in the Costa Blanca and the Costa Calida. Sean, last month when we spoke, at the end of August, and we were forecasting into September, I remember you saying that your gut told you that September would probably be a bit of a waste of time and that you wanted to put your feet up and chill out. But the indications that your team were getting and what they were telling you was that it was actually shaping up to be a very good month. How's that worked out?
How dare you quote me? Weird, a bit of a weird month. We did okay, but the problem has been, of course, that the restrictions on travel have become even more imposing. So we've done a couple of deals, but they've been remote deals. So they've been over the phone, via video. We haven't had anyone here on the ground who's bought somewhere. We still have appointments coming in, but they tend to be for people who are living here or here long term, and a few people who have been able to travel. But really, the travel restrictions and the uncertainty. I mean, to be honest with you, if you're in the UK or in Belgium or Sweden, I mean, would you book a holiday to the Costa del Sol? Would you book a trip knowing that you've likely got to go home and spend 14 days in quarantine? Unless you absolutely need to be here, you're probably not going to do it. So I don't blame our clients for not getting here at all. I'd love them to be here. But yeah, it's just weird because we can feel this pent up demand still there. Inquiry levels are still good. Although they're quite top heavy at the moment, which seems to be that, the top end of the market is quite active, but we just can't get people here with confidence. And that's the problem at the moment. We've got great clients, great products, but we can't get the two together on the ground.
Okay, so how does that leave? What's your forecast for October?
How dare you ask?
Given what you just said.
I think, unless we can start opening up the skies again, and unless people have a degree of confidence to be able to travel in October, November, I think we could end up having a really sticky last quarter of the year. Because as you know, I mean, we're dealing with a market that would like to buy a second home or a holiday home in Spain, but we're not dealing with a market that has to. We're not dealing with people that have to have a roof over their head in Spain in the main. So it means that people can be very discretionary about this. And you know as well as I do that as soon as it gets to the end of November, people think, well, that's it for the end of the year now. Christmas is coming. The kids will be breaking up in a couple of weeks. So everything's on hold until January. Oh no, January, we've got to get the kids back to school. And so call it late January, February. So, we are as a market in danger of just saying goodbye to another quarter's worth of clients, deals, revenue, unless there's a sudden opening up of travel. And I can't see that happening. So I think it'll be a case of the odd deal here and there over the phone, either opportunities that are too good to miss, that people who have knowledge of certain areas or developments just know what they want, can see the good times ahead and decide to go for it over the phone. But I don't see many, if any, people being able to get here and spend 3 or 4 days looking around.
But one of the things that we were looking at earlier in the week is that there is this, because of the confusion with changing travel restrictions, which is very difficult to keep a track on who can and who can't come here. That combined with the confusion with airlines and flights, it does give us the feeling that no one's allowed to come here. But that's not quite the case, is it? There are quite a few countries, European countries, that recommend not to travel, but there isn't actually a quarantine in place in a lot of them. But there is a sensation that there is everywhere because it's just such a mess generally. And probably in those cases, I would imagine it's not so much that they can't get here, is that they don't know if it's going to change so quickly that when they do get here, they can't, they get stuck with the quarantine when they have to go back. Is that something you've seen on the ground?
Yeah, I think that's the problem. You're quite right in what you say, that actually people are allowed to travel here from most European countries. But it's that feeling of unease, isn't it? It's, as you say, you don't want to travel here thinking you've got, 4 days looking around at properties, and all of a sudden within 24 hours, you're told you can't go back to your home country, or you've got to quarantine for 14 days. So I think if people don't have to do it or don't feel compelled to do it, they won't do it. Having said that, we've got a guy flying in from the UK next weekend to look at property just for one day. He's taking a hit. He really wants to get here. He really wants to buy a place. And then he'll take the 14-day quarantine hit, when he goes back. So, good on him. But he's obviously in a fortunate position where he's able to do that. He's coming from the UK. He doesn't have to go to work on the Monday morning. He can sit at home, work from home for a couple of weeks. So, he's one of those people that's in a fortunate position. He has nobody really to answer to. And of course, there's not many of those people about.
How about the other end of the spectrum? Because what seems to be most hit is the mid-ground, isn't it? The people sort of our age. You have then the wealthy, which that doesn't really come into it so much to do with travel restrictions and all that kind of thing. Doesn't seem to, at least. And then you have the older, which we kind of used to be our bread and butter, but it's kind of something that we seem to, is not as prevalent anymore, which are the retirees. I mean, they're not really affected by confinements, are they? They don't really have anywhere to go when they get back to the UK. Are you seeing any change in that at all?
To be honest with you, everyone just seems to be gripped by uncertainty and fear. Even the big boys with the multi-millions, with their own businesses and stuff like that, they still have responsibilities back at home. They don't want to, spend a few days in Spain if it means them having to go back and spend 14 days in quarantine. So you can't blame people for saying, do you know what, I'm just going to leave it this year, or I'm just going to leave it in October, November. I'll come back in January when hopefully things have slackened off. It doesn't matter what's 3 months to these people when it comes to choosing a holiday home.
I suppose the hurry is ours, isn't it? Not theirs.
The hurry is absolutely ours. So I can see a scenario where, unfortunately, people in this marketplace who don't have a lump of cash behind them, who haven't trimmed their costs, or who are exposed to large cost bases that are unmanageable, they're going to go. And that's pressure on the market in terms of the suppliers in the market like us. But I think in terms of the market in general, in terms of house prices and stuff like that, that's a different thing. Because we're still not seeing mass panic from vendors. We're seeing some price corrections, and it's really good to see because a lot of stock was overpriced. But we're not seeing that glut of instructions flooding the market with cheap resales. But who's to say in 6 months' time? I mean, I've been quite bullish about this whole thing, saying that this is a pause in the market. But I also did counter that with the fact, about 3 to 4 months ago, I said, look, if we're still in this same boat in 12 months' time, i.e. Q2 2021, all bets are off. Hopefully we won't get to that stage, but that will be the stage where we have mass unemployment, we have people even on, in big jobs getting made redundant. And that's when people start selling their assets. And the first one to go is always a holiday home. So we're not there, and hopefully we won't get there. And as I say, the market is still rumbling along. There's opportunities now, as I said, there would be towards the end of the year. But you're looking at maybe 5 to 15% off the prices that were in existence at the start of the year. You're not going to come here and get something at half price. But there will be a cull of agents. There has to be, because there isn't the volume to support people who have large cost bases and no cash.
Particularly the startups around here. There's we have several thousand agents over in the Costa and a big part of them would be setting up, struggling normally just to get themselves established, and don't have the mailing lists and the leads in the pipeline already to nurture. They rely on new blood coming in, which at the moment it's a bit thin.
It is, and we've kind of restructured a couple of times this year already in response to what's going on. But having said all of that, the companies that do survive and do manage to manage their cost base, they'll be well placed then to take advantage of what's going to happen. Hopefully, early doors next year when the market does open up again. I'm not going to say recover, because I don't think it's all about a recovery. It's just to open up.
Couldn't there be a situation where you have because there hasn't been a drop in demand, there has been a drop in the ability to supply? couldn't there be a situation where, because of the situation, because of what's happening, there are fewer agents, but not necessarily fewer people wanting to buy, the pent-up demand argument, so that when some level of normality comes back into the equation, whether it be through vaccines or otherwise in the next few months, there could be a mini boom, couldn't there? They're seeing something like that, not for the same reasons, but they are seeing a property boom in the UK at the moment, aren't they?
Yep. Yep. And I think you're right. I think it will feel more like a boom because the agents who are left, and hopefully there won't be many of us who go. I think it's time for a bit of a cull because there are too many of us, really. If we lose, say, 20-30%, which is a massive amount, we're talking hundreds of agents, then obviously the ones that remain should have a greater market share. And that's good. That's fantastic. And we saw it to a degree in July and August. In July, when people were allowed to travel, we had a lot of people come to see us. Our conversion rate from appointment to sale was double what it normally is. And people were buying. So we had a 6-week kind of window where we did probably 25 to 30% of our annual forecasted business.
When the clouds parted, it gave you a little glimpse of sunshine.
Absolutely, and we were all moaning how busy we were, and of course now we're all thinking, "Hang on a minute, can we have those times back again, please?" But I think we're gonna have that lumpy business throughout the next, who knows, next 3 to 6 months, where there'll be restrictions lifted, maybe from the UK or from somewhere else, and then we'll get people coming over, looking at what they've been researching with us for 3 months, and then buying. So we may well end up doing our business in little, almost like 4-week windows.
Little bursts.
We have to be patient. We have to keep our powder dry. We have to keep an eye on costs all the time to make sure that we're still here, so that when those times are on our doorstep, we can take advantage of them, really. And that's business management. Anyone who has a business should be aware of that anyway.
One of the things I was reading this week was that this travel association of travel agents, etc., in Europe, some big grouping, can't remember the name of it, is asking for the EC to set some coherent, consistent rules to do with to sort of drop quarantining for testing, so that, and have a sort of coherent rule within Europe at least, rather than what's happening at the moment where every government's doing something slightly different. Yeah. So that people do have a little bit of peace of mind and can book their holidays or book their trips here, knowing what it is that they got to do back. So, and they are starting to bring in some of these quick tests that they can do. And if they can test you at the airport or whatever the case is, or you do a test before you go, which is a thing they're introducing in some other countries, if they make that a Europe-wide thing, whilst we wait for the vaccines, etc., that would probably provide a little bit of trust and confidence for people to travel.
I totally agree. And I think that's going to come. I think, okay, I've said that all bets are off if this carries on for 6 months, but I'm hoping to God that during those 6 months, we will see improvements in the testing facilities. Because, I'd love to go to the UK. I've got, my in-laws are not particularly well at the moment. I'd love to go over there, but, my mother-in-law doesn't want me there. My God, how dare you come from Spain, where everyone's got this coronavirus, even though I'm coming from one of the most unaffected places in the whole of Europe. But if I could get a test at the airport that says I'm all clean and clear, and that means I can then go on my merry way, then that's great, because it gives me the confidence. And I think the people that we're dealing with now as clients are quite forward thinking. I think we've all had to become quite forward thinking about this. And I think we're all sort of slowly starting to come to the end of our tether with this. And I think if we can improve the testing, get those almost instant results so that we can move around and do stuff, then great. And I'd be hopeful of that sort of kicking into place before the end of the year. And if we can have a vaccine in Q1 next year, then again, that takes us to the next level of protection and confidence. And I'm thinking, look, if we can open our doors again, Q2, 2021, then I'll take that. I'll shake your hand now and take that. If someone said to me, right, it's going to get back to normal in April next year, but the first few months is going to be a bit tricky while the vaccine comes in, then yeah, that's fine. I think people just want some degree of, not certainty, but a window that they can see through into the future. Because at the moment, we mentioned it before we came on air, that people are a little bit depressed now. Everyone's kind of got an element of this low level depression where it's hard to motivate yourself. It's hard to get enthusiastic about stuff. you can be making money, you can be live a very happy life, but we're just not used to it. We're not we're not used to being kind of locked up and told what we can't do and can do. And I think everyone's just had enough now. So I think over the next few months, there will be improvements in the science and in the testing and in the vaccine. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we can put an end to this madness in the next few months.
So one of the things that's coming up in 2 months' time is the Brexit deadline for residency in Spain. Yeah. Travel restrictions and COVID aside, one would naturally expect to see a big last-minute rush of people trying to get their purchases in before the end of the year, or at least get the process underway and get the residency sorted before the end of the year to avoid coming into January, February, and unknown. There's still no deal. There's really no certainty of what kind of process is going to be in place. But what we do know is that they're not going to be European. Therefore, the amount of paperwork and the type of taxes they're going to pay, etc., could be very different. However, it's like a bit of a perfect storm of bad, isn't it? Because there's 2 months left for the deadline, but we're in the situation we're in where they can't really travel here. Yeah. Do you think people that are thinking of buying, the British people that are thinking of buying, are just going to say, forget it, I'll take my 14-day quarantine, I'm going to get this in? Or do you think they're actually not that aware of what the significance of getting it sorted before the end of the year is, and they're just going to go, I'll deal with it when it comes?
I would actually go with the latter option. We did a question and answer video, which we put out there on social media mainly about a week or two ago, and the response we had was amazing from clients, kind of saying, thank you for clearing that up. I didn't realize, and I just think that the Brits are sleepwalking into Brexit. And I think it's just that people, sometimes we don't want to admit to something that's about to happen, if it's bad. And I think that's what's happening. I think people are just going to get to the last week of December and go, oh, hang on, we haven't got that place in Spain that we're going to retire to, and it's like, no, you haven't, because you've missed the deadline, kind of thing. And I however many times we say, look, guys, this is happening at the end of December, get ready. I think it's just like, because I think everyone is so obsessed with COVID that they just can't see any other topic at the moment. We had a situation yesterday, I put it on my Facebook feed, that, we had the chief economist from the Bank of England, who came out with some really quite positive analysis of what was happening and where we were going. And it was like hidden in the news. You had to scroll down Sky News to about the 20th, subject, and it was there hidden. And it's people, the media is just kind of whipping us up into this absolute frenzy of COVID. And I honestly think that Brexit has just taken a complete back seat for people in the UK. And I think it will hit them. As the COVID thing starts to get sorted over the next few months and Brexit rears its ugly head in December, I think there will be a panic. And then I think it'll be a case of, okay, who's brave enough? Who's brave enough to get over here and do it? And I honestly don't know the answer. I honestly don't know. We could have a drove of people. We could have none. I just don't know which way it's going to go.
I think the truth, would you agree, is that one of the prices as a British person moving to Spain, if it is a move rather than a holiday home, well, actually, even if it's a holiday home, one of the unseen prices that you pay, and you realize it afterwards, or at least during the process, is the red tape and the paperwork here is pretty horrific compared to Britain, at least, and in most Northern European countries. Yeah. So that's not really something you discover or even think about when you consider moving to Spain until you start the process and you start discovering some of those things. So for anybody who has done it and is aware of it, they kind of really need to tell their mate that's thinking of buying to Spain, look, if I found it difficult, why would you invite more paperwork, more red tape, more taxes, more craziness after December if you're planning on buying anyway? Just Absolutely. Get it done now, and at least you're doing it as a EU, becoming as an EU resident. Yeah. So I think my personal feeling is that there's a few shocks that are going to come in from people that didn't really expect that, because it's not on the radar, as you say, COVID is. So going into October, then you don't really. What's your view then? Yay or nay, or Who knows?
I honestly don't know. I mean, this year keeps surprising me because we've done okay, and we're very fortunate that, like for instance, during that 6-week window, we had a lot of high value clients here, so we're okay. But I think we'll do a couple of deals over the phone from people who are really determined, but I can't see there being much traffic in terms of people here on the ground, which is really disappointing. But I don't get the vibes that people are desperate to get out here. So I think, for the next couple of months, I think we're going to be quiet. I'll go on record and say it.
Okay. So for other agents or for us in the sector, would you say it's a case of survival of the fittest or survival of the richest?
Well, interestingly, we talk about Brexit, and I think one of the ways out for British clients who are looking to come over here and do miss the deadline is that you have a thing over here in Spain called the Golden Visa. At the moment, the Golden Visa entitles you and your family to, with certain conditions, but entitles you to residency. Now, the Golden Visa at the moment is only open to clients who invest 500,000 euros or more in property. It can be one property, it can be split across 2 or 3. That is likely to continue. So once Britain leaves the EU, British people will be able to apply for that Golden Visa as non-EU residents. But of course, the people with 200,000 or 300,000 to invest, they won't be included. So again, it's going to suit the people with money. So we end up attracting the wealthy here. And the people, I was going to say the poor people, they're not poor, but the people who, the mass market of people who want to come here and live here and buy an apartment in a beautiful place for 200, 300,000, they're going to be out the window. And what we've noticed in our dealings over the last few months is that the people who are getting here, who are making the appointments, who are buying, are the people at the top end of the pile. So our average appointment budget has gone up. Our average lead budget has gone up. Our average sale price has gone up. Our average sale price so far this year has been over 1.3 million euros. That's double what it normally is in previous years. So it means that there's a kind of kilter in the market, that the more money, or it seems to be from the data we're seeing, the more money that people have, the more able they are to get here and to buy. I think that, I don't know. I mean, I think you're right in that it'll be survival of the fittest in terms of agents who have molded their businesses so that they're nimble. They can react to things. They can flick a switch and up it and lower it, whatever's needed, because this thing is an ever-changing beast. And also the agents who have a bit of cash behind them. So it is a a two-pronged attack, really. That was a very long-winded answer to a very straightforward question. Apologies.
That's okay. It's not a straightforward time. Okay, Sean, well, I appreciate your input. Let's pick this up next month and see what happened. Hopefully we'll get a little bit of a break between the clouds and a little boost of influx of buyers, and we're having a different conversation next month.
Let's hope so. And it doesn't take much, does it? Let's be honest, a couple of announcements from important people and things are back on track. But at the moment, it's just a little bit...
Okay, so we were to summarize it, we're a little bit meh, feeling that way.
Exactly, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Alfredo.
And let's speak again next month.
Take care. Cheers.
Bye.